Let us start. जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय, निताय चैतन्य की जय, परशुराम भगवान की जय, वामन देव की जय, गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, we are discussing chapter number 14. Chapter number 14. It is the three modes of material nature. So why did this chapter come? The three modes of material nature. You see, in the previous chapter, Arjuna asked questions about 6 things, right? One of the questions was, who is Purusha and what is Prakriti, right? So Prakriti is constituting of the 3 modes of material nature. So Lord Krishna is describing in detail about the material nature, the modes of material nature. Actually, it is very essential for us to understand this. This chapter is very significant for us. Even Krishna says that whoever understands this knowledge has been able to attain perfection in life. Okay, so this is all about how the transcendental spirit soul is getting conditioned by the modes of material nature. And let us begin. Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibadhnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Material nature consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So in the previous verse, last 2 verses, 14.3 and 14.4, Lord Sri Krishna has explained about the Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva is like the unmanifested or the manifested complete material nature is called as Mahat Tattva. From that Mahat Tattva, Krishna is impregnating the Mahat Tattva with the living entity. And the living entity is being born out of the Mahat Tattva. And Krishna has told to Arjuna that he himself is the father of all the living entities. So as far as the birth of the living entities is concerned in the material world, Krishna is the father. Aham bija pradah pita. That means I am the seed giving father. That's what Krishna has explained. Okay, now in this verse, Krishna is explaining about now that the living entity is being born, how the living entity is becoming conditioned. Okay, so you see, there is a nice prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called Jantu prayers. Jantu prayers means it is the prayers done by the fetus in the womb of a mother. So it has been described when Parikshit Maharaj asks Shukadeva Goswami that what happens to the living entities? Please explain about their birth, death, everything. Then Shukadeva Goswami explains that a materialistic person, first of all, will have to suffer the reactions, whatever karmic reactions he has done throughout the life and the previous lifetimes, they will be punished by the servants of Yamaraj. And he will be sent into hellish planets afterwards. And then again, this person will take birth. Now, the process of taking birth has come into picture. Will take birth as a lower species of life if the reactions are very bad, or if the reactions are good or neutral, get a human birth. So Nonetheless, good birth or bad birth or whatever kind of birth it is, whether it is being born in the lower animal species or demigods or human beings, nevertheless, birth is there. So this birth is coming. So the fetus, when once inside the womb, it has been described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, week by week, how it progresses. So at that time, there was no scanning machine to see, right? But still, everything has been described in detail. At what time the consciousness enters inside that fetus? At what time the baby is able to understand, or hear, listen, understand, and feel, feeling consciousness. But what we do not know about also, Srimad Bhagavatam says that this fetus, sometimes if it is lucky, will be able to remember the past life. The fetus within the womb, sitting inside the womb, upside down, hanging, right? Upside down inside the water, not a comfortable position for sure. The fetus is actually contemplating about the previous lifetimes. I mean, what did I do in my previous lifetime? When I had the opportunity, when I had the body, what did I do? I mean, it's like I squandered it. Sometimes it happens with us also. We sit in silence, in retrospection, and we think about our life. That yes, I had all these years with me. I had all these opportunities with me. Did I take action? Did I take that first step? I knew that this was something that I had to do, but I just didn't take action. And I did the opposite of it. I wasted my time. So therefore, I am not able to enjoy the fruit of what I could have got today. So this is a lamentation, right? So the Jantu, or that Jantu, the fetus, is also thinking like that, lamenting. I should have done this, but what did I do? I have squandered my previous lifetimes, and I have unnecessarily spent my time excessively worrying about material things in life, which actually do not matter, because this fetus is no longer having the previous body. So all that baggage, all that context, all that conditions, all that relatives, all that feelings, environment, family, everything, nothing is there. Everything is gone. So that means it's impermanent. It's not permanent. So something impermanent, thinking as permanent. Something permanent, Krishna consciousness, thinking as impermanent. Second, you see, it's all about priorities in life. What is the first thing that you're going to place in your jar? So there is one famous thing, right? There's a professor who says, okay, here is a jar. Now you have to place some pebbles, some stones, some grains, some kind of sand and water. What is the first thing that you'll put? You'll put the large ones first, large stones, next the small stones. So in that example, he gives a materialistic example. But here, the thing is, what is really important in the long run is that we are the spirit soul. So if we are the spirit soul, and if our birth is guaranteed again, because Krishna says, Dhruvam Janma Mrutasya cha, Tata Dehantara Prapti. So by these verses of Bhagavad Gita, we understand that birth is inevitable as long as we are conditioned by this material nature. So when we know that, and we are excessively giving stress to the secondary things and actually treating the primary things as secondary is primary, this is illusion. So the fetus starts to lament and feels bad. At that time, it starts praying to God. It starts praying to Krishna that in this life, I shall properly do Krishna consciousness. I understand 100%. I see the big picture that whatever is permanent, whatever is impermanent, and I should not have squandered all my time in those things which actually do not matter. And in the things that really matter, I should have spent more time. I should have focused, taken it very seriously. Like that it laments. And as soon as it is born, the material nature captures that. And immediately, you see, immediately conditioned by the modes of material nature. And completely knowledge is gone. Right? Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha, Krishna says. By me, remembrance and forgetfulness comes. So as soon as entering into the material nature, the baby forgets. And then the baby starts crying. So that cry of the baby is, oh, I lost all my knowledge again. So again, I have become a fool and I shall start my foolish activities again. So that is the meaning of that cry. So it's a very deep thing to understand and reflect upon, right? So that means that the living entity is pure. Okay. Living entity is actually pure, just like how Krishna says, Vayur Gandham Ivambasa. That means just like a fragrance is carried by air. Originally, air does not have any kind of a fragrance, but fragrance is being carried by the air. Or just like the space is there, and inside the space, we are putting a table there. And if we keep the table for 100 years there and remove the table, the space doesn't remember that there was a table here. The space does not mix with the table. Space is space, table is table. So similarly, the living entity, even though it is taking up so many identities as a different kinds of bodies, originally there is no connection between the living entity and the material nature. But by the will of Paramatma, this living entity has been placed within the modes of material nature. Now it is placed in the modes of material nature, it is conditioned. So the example is that of raindrops. You see, the raindrops are very pure. Where it is raining, the raindrops are pure distilled water, very pure water. But as soon as the water is entering the atmosphere, it is becoming somewhat contaminated because of the air pollution. They call it acid rain. And as soon as it falls on the ground, it becomes muddy water. Water originally is not muddy. It is distilled water, pure water. But now the mud is mixed. Now we can separate that water from the muddy things, remove or purify this muddy water. Again, it will become pure water. That is the original state. Same thing. The living entities, we are the soul. We don't have anything to do with the material nature. Just like that water, pure, distilled. But unfortunately, we are in the material nature now. And therefore, we got mixed with this material nature very intimately. And these three modes of material nature are conditioning us. That's what Krishna is saying here. Sattvam, Rajas, Tama, Iti. That means three. There are three modes of material nature. First one is Sattvam. Second one is Rajas. Third one is Tama. In the following verses, Krishna will specify and in a detailed manner explain about what is Sattva, what is Rajas, what is Tamas, and what are the symptoms, qualities, so that we can judge for ourselves in which mode of material nature we are currently dominated by. This is a very dynamic thing that's going on. It's a very important knowledge, you see. This is the knowledge of the three modes of material nature. The entire material nature is run by these three modes of material nature. You see, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And it says Guna Prakriti Sambhava. That means these living entities are possible. This material nature are conditioned. The living entities in contact with the material nature are getting conditioned. Nibadnati. Nibadnati means condition or getting tied. We are tied. We are almost like more or less like puppets. So then he is using the word Mahabahu. Mahabahu. Why does Krishna use certain word here? Mahabahu. You are very strong. You can rise above these three modes of material nature. These three modes of material nature are very strong. You are very strong, but the three modes of material nature are actually stronger. There's an indirect meaning to it. Why Krishna is saying Mahabahu here? Yes, you are very strong. Your strength is good. But unfortunately, the three modes of material nature have captured you right now, even though you are a very strong warrior. So you become stronger than the material nature. You fight the modes of material nature. You become strong, right? So therefore Krishna is saying these modes of material nature tie us. They tie us to the material world. And because of this, we start acting. Because of in a conditioned state. That's why we call it as conditioned living entity. Just like impure water, just like muddy water. Now our state of consciousness is like muddy water. So in this muddy consciousness, we cannot think clearly. On our own, it is not possible. It is only possible if we listen to Krishna, that our consciousness becomes clear. Then we will be able to relate with what he's saying. We'll be able to connect with what he's saying. We'll be able to realize what Krishna is saying. If we clear our consciousness. So the process of clearing our consciousness, the first step is Shrunu. Shrunu means hear. That's why Krishna is saying repeatedly to Arjuna, listen. Listen attentively. So first thing that we have to do is listening attentively about this transcendental knowledge. The message of Krishna. The greatest of all the coaches, the greatest of all the spiritual masters, the greatest of all the teachers who can explain the most complex subject in a most easy and a pleasing manner, that is Krishna. So he is giving us these lessons. So all we have to do is first step is hear properly, attentively. And the recommended process of clearing this muddiness out of our water, of our consciousness to come to our original consciousness is also called as Krishna consciousness. To come back to that original water-like consciousness, pure water, is Krishna consciousness. So how we do that is through chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. By chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. It is clearing the consciousness. This Cheta consciousness, it is like a mirror which is covered with so much of dust. If your mirror is clouded with dust, if you see in front of the mirror, you can't see yourself clearly. If you can't see yourself clearly, you can't identify yourself clearly. But if I take a nice sponge and a dry sponge and nicely wipe it clean, okay, then I can see everything clean as it is. So that is Sri Krishna Sankirtana. So, okay, so the summary of today's classes, the material nature is consisting of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And the living entity is coming in contact with the material nature and is captured by these three modes. And Krishna consciousness means we are attempting to come out of these three modes. Consciously, we are choosing to be free. This is real independence. The real independence or real freedom is freedom from the three modes of material nature. Because we are currently dependent on the material nature. We are puppeted by the material nature. Okay? So the process is to chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, how the free will and three modes of material nature is different, how is it get interacted?
We have subtle free will. But whatever will we have, okay, that is also influenced by the three modes of material nature. See, I can wish, or, for example, if I'm having a desire, okay, I want this. This desire is arising from my heart. And it is arising from the contact of the three modes of material nature. Generally, desire is arising due to the mode of passion. Only because of mode of passion, we desire something which is not in relationship with Krishna. So any desire that we have, which is not in relationship with Krishna, is arising from the modes of material nature. So That means if we use our own mind and start thinking, there is no possibility that we will have a Krishna conscious desire. Very rare. Krishna conscious desire will only come if we associate with those people who are free from the modes of material nature. That is, we are associating with the pure devotee, that is spiritual master. So we are listening to the spiritual master. For example, in our case, it is Srila Prabhupada. We are hearing to his books, right? We are hearing him speak. We are hearing his lectures, his commentaries. And therefore, now we have a spiritual desire that I want to go back to Godhead. I have got that will, desire only because I am hearing of pure devotee. Otherwise, if I have to will, I will that, I want to just enjoy this material nature forever. Okay, so in summary, what I'm trying to say is modes of material nature and free will are definitely connected.
Yeah,
And whatever we will, whatever we desire is very clearly influenced. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mata, you want to add something? Yes, go ahead. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
No, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize my phone was.
No problem. Fine. So that's what it is, Prabhu. Does it answer your question? They definitely our desires or our will is dependent on the three modes of material nature. We cannot figure it out ourselves. That I can guarantee you. Out of my own free will, if I try to find out, it is very difficult. I need the association of the pure devotee. Only then I will be able to think beyond the three modes of material nature. Because by default, these three modes are always acting on me. You see?
Yes,
Does it
Prabhu.
answer your question? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu, means like in the last, the Krishna asked, means like we can fight or not to fight. Means he gives a free will to the Arjuna.
Yes.
So either one of the steps it will actually take the same route. So is it that it is that choosing is like the free will is like something like an illusion over there, like how it is?
Yes, Krishna gives at the option at the end. He says, Yathechasi Tathakur. He says, I have informed you everything now. Now you think, deliberate, contemplate, and do whatever you think is right. So after having Krishna, after having hearing Krishna, after having hearing from the spiritual master, generally all the doubts are dispelled. It's because he has explained in such an expert way, in such a nice way. And Arjuna also accepts that, yes, I understood. But it actually is indicating the problem with the living entity, that the living entity is speculating about life. And we have our own philosophy of life, don't we? What is birth? What is death? What is God? What should we do? What is the purpose of life? We have got our own conception, every living entity. That is our lens. I am wearing my lens and seeing the world. Okay. But we have to see from the lens of Krishna, who is the master of the universe. So, yes, our free will is definitely illusion. Is definitely going to lead towards illusion. If I just let loose, if I ask, just like a small child, let loose, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to go to school, you go. If you don't want to go, it's okay. The child will never go to school. So our mind is more or less like that of a child. We are captured by the modes of material nature. So our free will most likely will be illusion. Okay, Prabhu? Is it okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanavad.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.